It's my pleasure to introduce Neal Shusterman.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. But where's my tiara?
Down on the chair.
I'm honored to be here speaking to the Secondary Reading League. It really is quite a wonderful reception that I've had here in Illinois every single time that I come back. I want to talk to you first about how reading has changed my life from the time that I was a child. When I was in 3rd grade, I had a 3rd grade teacher. How many of you have fond memories of your 3rd grade teacher? Raise your hand. I did not. My 3rd grade teacher hated me. She was very old school, very, very traditional. In her class, you had to raise your hand to answer a question. You couldn't raise it like that. You couldn't raise it like that. Right angle. Your arm and your elbow, you had to have a right angle with your arm or she would not call on you. I was not a right angle kind of kid. I was the kind of kid who would be jumping around in his seat, scribbling all over the math papers, and if my hand ever did go off, it would like knock the glasses off of her face. So she used to get furious at me. So I decided that I was going to write a story for her. Now, the assignment was Halloween. That was towards the beginning of the year. The writing was already on the wall this year. I knew that this third grade was not going to be a good year for me. So I figured I'm going to try to win her over. I'm going to try to win over my 3rd grade teacher. So the assignment was to write a Halloween story. The assignment was to write a 2-page story. I decided I was going to go all out. I was going to write a 5-page story. And that wasn't enough. So I cut it apart and I pasted it on 10 pieces of construction paper. So now it was 10 pages long, and I illustrated it, and I bound the whole thing together with black and orange yarn for Halloween, and I presented it to her. And she gave me a D-.
Oh.
A D- in the first story that I ever remember writing. Now, they didn't even have letter grades in 3rd grade. She still gave me a D-. And a D- is the worst grade that you can get. See, students, they think that an F is the worst grade you can get. Not true. See, an F, that just means you failed. But a D-, that means the teacher really wanted to stick it to you. A D- is an F with attitude. Now, thinking back, I think the reason why I got a D- on this Halloween story was that in the story, the ground opened up, swallowed my 3rd grade teacher, and closed back up all over the squirting blood everywhere. It was a little bit of a wish fulfillment that she did not appreciate. But she used to get so furious at me in that classroom that she would go red in the face and she would just close her eyes and grit her teeth and say, "Neal, go to the library." And so basically I spent most of 3rd grade in the library. And to me this was punishment because I hated reading. I was the slowest reader in 3rd grade. I could not sit with the book. I had no care for reading whatsoever. And the elementary school librarian, she always knew I was coming. And so she always had a book for me. And that just ticked me off. So I would go into the library, she would give me a book, and I would go to the back of the library and I would sit on it. I would refuse to read the book. But there's only so long that a hyperactive kid can sit on a book until he finally starts to pull it out and start to leaf through it. And the first book, I remember looking through it and reading it, and I kind of realized this librarian knew the kind of books that I would like. So I finished that first one and I went back to her and said, "What else you got?" And she gave me another one. And pretty soon, I went back to the library. She would always have my book for me. Pretty soon I was getting thrown out of class intentionally so I could get sent to the library. Then I progressed on to chapter books that year, and on to full-fledged children's novels. And by the end of 3rd grade, I ended up being the best reader in the entire grade. By the time I graduated from elementary school, I got the award for having the highest reading score in the district for a 6th grader. And this from a kid who was a total non-reader. So I really have to hand it to my elementary school librarian for fostering a love of reading in me, and also to my 3rd grade teacher for knowing to throw me out of the classroom. It really wasn't until 9th grade that I really got interested in writing. See, the summer before 9th grade, a movie came out that was based on a book that I had read that school year. It was a book that everybody was reading. It was a big best-selling book about a 26-foot-long great white shark. Jaws, which was, of course, the book before it was the movie. the movie came out that summer between 8th and 9th grade, and I went to see it on opening day because I loved the book so much. And I remember walking out of that theater. You know, sometimes when you just, there's a movie that just affects you in a certain way, you remember for the rest of your life how it felt when you walked out of that theater. You know, for me, Star Wars was like that, and Jaws was like that. I remember walking out of the theater and saying to myself, I want to be Steven Spielberg. You know, I want to be able to grab audiences and keep them on the edges of their seats. And so that summer, inspired by Jaws, I sat down to write my own story. And my story was about this small seashore town that was being attacked by, sandworms that came up through your beach blanket and ate you up. Jellyfish that would attack you while you were swimming and drag you down to the bottom, never to be seen again. Lobsters that got into the sewer system and would crawl up your toilet and eat you up alive in the middle of the night. It was basically Jaws with everything but a shark. First day of 9th grade, I gave this to my English teacher. She didn't know me, I didn't know her. I was just some kid that came in the first day of school with a story to read. And she read it, and she came back to me the next day, and she said, Neal, I love this story. I'm going to show it to the principal. And I said, wait a second, you're going to show my story about man-eating worms and toilet lobsters to the principal? She sends it off to the principal's office. The principal hauls me into his office, and I figure I'm in trouble. He's going to make an example out of me. For, you know, you can't write this kind of story, so I figure it's like 3rd grade all over again. He tells me he wants to enter in the district short story contest. I was flattered by this. I mean, I thought it was just a goofy story that I had written. So I took this story, entered it in the contest, and it didn't win. It didn't get anything in the contest, but I was really encouraged by the fact that these adults thought my story was worth submitting. For the rest of that school year, my English teacher challenged me to write a story a month for extra credit for that whole school year. Now, I needed extra credit in English because, you know, some things never change. I was the kind of kid who would always, I was basically your classic self-sabotaging overachiever. I would always do more work than necessary. I would always go over the top with what I presented, and I would always turn it in a day late. And if I was told I was allowed to turn it in a day late, I'd end up turning it in 2 days late. I never got anything in on time. And so my English grade was going down the tubes because I was getting 50% credit on everything that I did. So my teacher took pity on me, and she said, Neal, I'll tell you what, if you write a story a month for extra credit, I'll give you back your lost points for turning in other things late. But if you're going to turn in this story, then it can only be turned in on the 1st of the month. I will accept it no other day. And so she used what I loved, which was writing, to teach me how to turn things in on deadlines. And so once a month, like clockwork, I would write a story and turn it in. And you know, by the end of 9th grade, I felt like a writer. And I haven't stopped writing ever since.